My name is Sarah, and today I'll be doing a book review on Juliet Takes a Breath by Gabby Rivera. Non-spoilers, I give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Our main character, her name is Juliet. She is a young Puerto Rican who lives in the Bronx, and it is summer vacation, semester's over, and like every good college kid, during the summer you're either working or doing an internship, and Juliet has the internship with her favorite author, Harlow, and she'll be interning under this young woman in Portland. So yay, cross-country trip. And while we're in Portland helping Harlow and also coming up with ideas for her next book and discovering these women that were lost in history, we also had the fun opportunity of being there when the day that Juliet was supposed to leave for Portland, she came out to her family. And the reaction wasn't what she expected. So basically in this book, Juliet, after coming out, she is also trying to find herself in the LGBTQ plus community, as well as finding herself within her own skin. This book, I will admit, was different than things compared to what I usually read, and that made me feel like a fish out of water in a good way and in a bad way, especially for my anxiety. Mostly my anxiety was because Juliet did come out to her parents, her family members, and their reactions weren't what should be expected. So I was like, you know, how is this going to work with Juliet and her relationship with her family, especially her mother, because, you know, it's a summer thing, it's a summer trip, so your parents are eventually going to want to call, get a little check-in, see how things are going, and as well as how Juliet maneuvered her way into this new life that she's kind of always been on the other side of the line and not fully coming over, and now that she's over there, she's just trying to find her way over on like how she fits in the community. And she has Harlow, who kind of in a way shows her around, but we also see things through Juliet's point of view because it's first person POV, how she thinks, how she reacts, how with my anxiety, her anxiety would sometimes peak. And it's like, this was really interesting. I will admit that it was different. I didn't know what I was expecting going in. Some things caught me surprised. Some things made me infuriated. Some things made me go, aw, cute. This was a big bundle of different reactions, and I really enjoyed that. As for everything else, I kind of enjoyed the setting. Portland, I have never been, so that was a new adventure. And we also got to see some changes because most of the book does take place in Portland, but we also take a little break into Miami, so we see how both communities act differently, so we could see both sides in a way, and Juliet was able to see, you know, how both kind of helped her grow in a way, and she could also see how she was more familiar with one, while the other one she's very intrigued but not knowing, and she's very curious. So I like that as well. And that's as much as I can get into non-spoilers. Juliet Takes a Breath by Gabby Rivera. 4 out of 5 stars. Bye, non-spoilers. Shoo. Spoilers. So like I said, it's summer has begun, semester is over, classes are done, and Juliet's getting ready to do her internship in Portland. And she's from the Bronx, so we're doing a coast-to-coast thing. And to add to the fact is that that night, again, she decides to tell her family that, you know, she decides to come out. She's gay, she's a lesbian, and she also wants to say that her friend that everyone knows is her friend Lainey is her girlfriend, her very girlfriend that's also in DC for her internship. So she figured, you know, this would be easier way of coming out, and they are already familiar with my friend Lainey, so hopefully they'll be more accepting of her being my girlfriend. The only person that knows all about this, I will admit, that I loved very much, he was adorable, was her younger brother, little Melvin. Melvin, he was the one that she came out to earlier, and he was very accepting. He's all there for her, and he's also into like the Animorphs book series again, so he's like saying, you know, if people can turn into, you know, animals to be superheroes, why can't you? He's very open, sure, he's there for her corner. I love little Melvin, he is amazing. So everyone's home, you know, the celebratory night, getting ready to say goodbye, and we had an uncomfortable encounter, very uncomfortable, at the beginning of the book, where my anxiety went high. Juliet's reaction was trying to get these guys to back off on her, and she basically said, you know, I'm gay, I'm not interested. And guys being thinking, oh, you just don't know until you try. My anxiety was high. I was ready to punch and run. Luckily Juliet just managed to run, and she was telling that to her family members, and again my anxiety went a little high when she told her tias, or how in the book her titas, and they were saying, oh mija, that's just boys' way of saying, you know, they like you, they just don't know how to say it verbally. I'm like, okay, we're going that direction right now. And so at that moment, because she had said, she told them that, you know, she was gay, she was a lesbian, and her titas thought that, you know, that's the excuse that they used back then as well. And her mom is like, you know, rolling with her dad's just being his dad, and little Melvin's like, you know, they're being very supportive. And she said, well, I am. She came out. Congratulations, Juliet. But then my anxiety, because that's when the denial happened, especially with her mom saying, you know, you just haven't been with any boys that are good, you haven't even given the college boys a try, you just don't know, you're confused, and it's very awkward. And that's also the night that she has to leave, so that's gonna play on Juliet's mind throughout this whole trip. But before leaving, I love the grandma, because the grandma, she was silent, she was calm and everything, and we kind of forgot her in the background. Well, in reality, she was making meals, giving them to Juliet, and basically saying that you're my granddaughter, I love you, I will always love you, and you have a home here when you come back. I was like, I love grandma, and she reminded me of the grandmother from One Day at a Time. If y'all don't know that show, watch it. It's a really, really good show, but she reminded me of the grandmother from that TV show. And from one of the tias that I thought, you know, the one that said that about how, you know, boys do that because they want to get your attention, she kind of collected herself and said, you know, you're also my niece, I love you, everything, and I will be there for you as well. So we also have a tia, we have a grandmother, and we have a little brother on our side to support Juliet. When her summer is over, she has people to come back to who love her for who she is. So that was a good moment. Well, everything else, my anxiety was killing me. We also have a cousin named Ava who I really, really loved, and I wish we could have seen more in this book. That I just started texting her, being like, cuz, I heard about everything, let's go. Text me, call me whenever you get a chance. We got a whole bunch of stuff to talk to you about, because I loved Ava very, very much. We arrive in Portland, it's at night, and we meet Harlow, who is a big ball of energy. Okay, she is just full of this positive nature, goddess energy, very out there, where I was like, ooh, let me adjust my frequency, just give me a few moments. That's how much energy that she had, that I had to take a step back and be like, okay. And we find out that she and Julia, for the internship, is to go over, like, find women that were lost in history, that weren't properly recorded, and that would be the basis of the new book about strong, independent women that over time were basically lowered further and further into history until they were forgotten. Some examples would be, you know, Sophia, who apparently after doing some research was basically in the Christian version, the Wisdom of God. We have Lolita LeBron, who was a Puerto Rican supporter of independence and during the 50s. Del Martin, who her and her partner were supporters of gay rights. We also have like Boudica and Fu Hao. We all know Boudica. She was an Iceni tribal leader that fought against the Romans, and apparently Fu Hao was a concubine, or I believe, of an emperor of China, but also a general. So it's like all these people that were basically not really spoken much about in history. We meet Fen, who I really, really wanted to know more about. We literally just meet him in Harlow's kitchen, and he's just there, free to the wind. And this is where we start seeing Juliet checking herself because she kind of like looked at him and she kind of judged inwardly until she realized what she was doing, and Fen kind of picked up on that. So their first meeting wasn't really good because he was a little bit aggressive but also defensive in a way that was appropriate because she automatically judged right then and there on the spot, and she felt really bad about that. But Harlow sent Fen to take Julia to Powell's bookstore because apparently later on we're gonna have a book signing there. While we're there, and Fen does give Juliet a book as a peace offering, which we find out was like, about, women and things that happened back in the past, especially for people of ethnic backgrounds. We do get a phone call from her mother, from Juliet's mom, and we see Juliet's mom kind of trying to make a connection, but again, the anxiety peaks just a little bit because she talks about her sister, Juliet's Thea, Penny, and saying how back then Penny had a friend that she was a little too close with, and Juliet thought, oh my god, my Thea had, probably a girlfriend. But then her mom was saying, then she married your Theo, and maybe you're just like that, you're just going through a phase. So we go through the phase thing again. So we have like an awkward moment. Juliet and Fen just like walk around. He shows her around the city, everything, and we get into a little argument when Fen wants to go with some friends to a party, and Juliet just kind of backs off saying no, she doesn't, and so he kind of just like leaves her there. And so Juliet manages to find her way back to Harlow's house, and she wants to talk to Fen, try to figure out like how to make up things, but she overhears him and Harlow arguing, and apparently they do have like a past. I thought maybe they have been in a relationship, but it seems like they're friends, and they had a connection, I believe, through someone that Fen knew, and that's how him and Harlow became close. And they do kind of make up in a way, Juliet and Fen, because she said she apologizes because she realized how fast she judged him, and he apologized, like saying how he reacted in a very negative way. And he was also like jumping on her as well, asking like, what is she, like, is she, gay? And he's also throwing these other words that Juliet doesn't know because she hasn't really been in the LGBTQ community. She was only like around on the other side of the line because her and Lainey, so she was very unsure what he was saying. He was like throwing a bunch of words that she didn't know, but she was too afraid to ask questions. So they both came off a little hard on each other to begin with, but she was willing to, to start over. And if Fen did stay, he probably would have done a start over as well. But we find out the next day he left because he realized that he just had to leave to sort things out and find himself, which is very understandable, especially for Harlow. But she kind of, I have a feeling she would miss him. I began questioning this relationship between Juliet and Lainey, even though we never met Lainey face to face physically, but we do get like little flashbacks, as well as the fact that Juliet's been like, texting Lainey, leaving little messages like saying, hey, checking in, just wanting to see how everything's doing, just talk, to say hi. And we had this moment where we're also discussing things about religion. So how those debates always go. And she would always have these intellectual debates with Lainey. And she remembered this moment where Lainey just completely shut down the idea and wasn't being very considerate. I mean, if you're in a relationship, y'all are gonna have y'all's differences, right? And this would have been like a thing saying, yeah, I don't believe in God, but I know that you believe, so I will listen to understand, and I'll base my theories off of the things I know to do this debate, and we'll just see how things go. Very intellectual debate, as well as respecting your significant other's beliefs. But no, in this flashback, Lainey just picked apart everything, not caring how Juliet felt. So it's like, and she's not getting back to anything, not as simple as texting, hey, yeah, everything's good over here, it's a little bit hectic, sorry I haven't been able to get back to you, but I'll try to call you maybe later tonight or something, or sometime over the weekend. No, she is completely ghosting Juliet. So I was not very comfortable with this, and again, we have not even met Lainey. We see more of the community in Portland because Juliet, she's still, again, like I said, trying to find her footing, and to help that is Maxine, who is in a poly relationship with Harlow. And her other partner who is leading this workshop is Zyra. And it's a very open, safe space workshop where they also get to do writing, Juliet also gets to meet some other people, feel a little bit more comfortable in her own skin, and meet other people. And we also find out that she's very good at writing because she's with this mother with her son. She's teaching him how to, be very open to beliefs and other people and what they believe in everything. And they're writing these stories, and we see that Juliet might have a talent for writing. She's also just lacking the confidence, and this other lady's telling her, just go ahead and write. And this is where we get to see a side of Harlow, because here's Maxine and Julia outside, and there are some girls talking, some white girls, and they were complaining how before the workshop began, Zyra was talking about how, respecting spaces, especially for people of privilege, and they're saying that felt like an attack on us. But then here comes Harlow saying, we should give these women the opportunity to do their own things. And before she could finish, Julia noticed that how Maxine left, and it was a very awkward ride home. And we realized that Harlow, in a way, was saying that it is our duty to make sure that these women at least have a right. So how about we let them have this moment? And so Maxine, did not like that at all. We were at the library because apparently this book takes place in 2003. So, libraries are the source of information. And we go by, first of all, the names of Sophia and Lolita LeBron. And we're at the library. Julia found her sanctuary. And that's where we meet Kira, who is the junior library assistant and is there to assist with Juliet. We don't know much about Lainey, but I do not like Lainey. Kira, librarian, knows things, able to assist with our research, very welcoming. It's like, I don't know, things might not work out for Lainey, but I'm out there for Kira. We do our research, time is almost up, we do our little printing and everything, and we're on our way back to Harlow's place, because again, that's where Juliet is staying, and that's when we finally get a call from Lainey, who's like, everything okay? What's the emergency? And she's like, no, I just wanted to talk, hear your voice, see how things are going. And Lainey, she was like, I'm really busy right now. I have to go do this thing. Call me back when it's a real emergency, and hangs up. We just met Kira. We just spoke to Lainey. I do not like this relationship with Lainey. Kira, can we see if she is available? Because how that felt, we felt that with Juliet. She, in a way, she also thought maybe I'm being too clingy. Maybe this was my fault. No, Juliet. No, it was not your fault. You're simply in a relationship with a person who you just sent a few texts, a few voicemails. Yes, okay. But you're just basically checking up with. You weren't being overbearing, you weren't being clingy, you're basically just saying, hey, I'm okay, are you doing okay, how's things with your internship, hoping we can talk, maybe whenever you're available. Again, a weekend thing. But no, Lainey just came out and basically said, call me when it's an emergency. I do not like how this relationship is going. Kira is a nice young lady. Let's see how that's going to turn out. This book is very open, especially about women and the women's bodies, because we have a moment where Juliet does get a period, and Harlow's like, we shall do a ceremony. It's basically just to, don't feel ashamed of having a period, and just make you feel comfortable. And apparently some medicines do work well when you get cramps, because Juliet was getting major cramps. And Harlow, she goes out, does something with Maxine, and Juliet's by herself, and she decides to, read the book that Fen gave her. And she was reading some things about stuff that she didn't know, because again, public schooling kind of restricts certain teachings unless you have a family member that lived through that time of history and retold the stories, or you go to university and take a class that talks about those things. Well, she found out the truth about Banana Republic, how Banana Republics actually work, and she called Lainey, who actually picked up, and we were gonna have an intellectual debate, because she was gonna ask if Lainey knew about that stuff, because they would always go shopping at Banana Republic, because Lainey liked doing that, but Julia always felt uncomfortable because people would always look at her, and because she is overweight, none of those things would fit her, but they all worked for Lainey. And she was going to start, this debate with her, intellectual debate, see if her girlfriend knew about this information, see her opinions and everything. Yes, cool, nice. But Lainey was like, oh yeah, I knew about that stuff, but it was like long ago, so it's not really important. Sweetie. There are a few things that can come to mind about things where people could say, that was a long time ago. It's not important. It's just a name and they sell good khakis. Well, I can tell you this. There are plenty of things that happened a long time ago and people still talk about today, and it still ruffles some feathers to where we cannot forget about this stuff. Or what's the saying go? You are going to repeat history, and how that goes. Oh my god, this conversation with Lainey. Yeah, she says she knew about that stuff, but Juliet's also like, testing her. She has her opinion, she has her thoughts, she's backing her opinions, but Lainey turns that around and starts blaming all of this confrontation, this jump on her against Juliet, and hangs up on her. You're supposed to be a grown woman, a college woman, who took some classes, who is supposed to think about these things and, again, have an intellectual debate. But no, you turn this all around and make it sound like it's your girlfriend's fault for jumping on you, even though, you kind of jumped on her. It's like, ooh, I do not like Lainey at all. We are forgetting about Lainey now because Juliet doesn't know what to do, but she realizes that she does not want to call Lainey. She does not want to talk, saying this was my fault. What can I do to make it up to you? No, we focus on finding more information on these women to help Harlow with her next story. And Juliet's been spending more time at the library. And who works at the library? It is Kira, and she has been helping us finding more research material because she's the one finding the books. She's helping us going through the computers. We have our own little corner. We're just like, keep in touch and everything until we get a letter, like a little dropping letter. And basically Kira saying, I'm going on a break. Do you want some cookies? I'm like, one day at a time, people. One day at a time. Kira is offering Juliet a cookie. We know what the cookie means, people. We know what the cookie means. We go get our cookies. We're talking a little bit. Kira's saying, hey, my break is almost up. If you want, I can give you a lift back to your place later today. And it's like, are we going to get a ride by Kira? And, we're going back to doing our research. Time is almost up for closing. We're leaving for the day. And we're waiting, thinking, no, maybe by Lyft we're going to take the bus together or something. And all of a sudden we hear a vroom, vroom. And Juliet sees an old Harley park up front. We're like, oh, sweet, nice ride. I wonder whose that is. And all of a sudden, it's Kira! She's a librarian that has offered us cookies, is giving us a lift back on the place on her Harley. Juliet, drop Lainey, take Kira. And she gives her her helmet. It's like, and they go through a different way than the bus route, so we have this nice little drive back to the house. I'm like, oh, this is beautiful, people. We get back at the house. Kira waits until Juliet gets onto the stoop at the door before leaving. She's like, oh my god, Chivalry isn't dead, she's perfect. And then we get a package at the door from Lainey's house address. And in it, Juliet was making a mixtape for Lainey, for her girlfriend, for the summer. And apparently Lainey was doing the same thing. And she sent it with a letter saying how she didn't know that this mixtape would be a breakup CD because she met someone else at DC. And she tried hard to fight her feelings, but there's just something about this other person, and in her heart she felt this was her forever person. The person that, because she has not came out to her parents, the person that she wants to introduce to her parents as her first girlfriend. And we found out about this right after we had a beautiful ride with Kira. And that ruined the night. Julia, understandably, has a few days off to go through her emotions, because what kind of letter was that she just sent to her? And that she also realized she sent it through her house address, meaning that Juliet wouldn't be able to know where to send a reply to in DC for, like, to confront or talk about. And it felt like a cut between the relationship, like a completely cut, no ways of communicating back. So that felt like a major heartbreak. But Juliet has days to herself to go through her emotions. Harlow wasn't pushing anything, letting her do her own thing. And after a while, she realized the best way to get through this is to get back into why she's here for her internship, because it's also going towards her credits, and she has to do like a paper as to how she experienced her summer. We have a moment where Juliet does talk with her mother on her phone, because during her time she basically turned off her phone, hasn't really communicated with anyone, so she hasn't contacted her parents in a way. And she calls her mom. Her mom is very concerned about her because she hasn't talked very much, and in Juliet's voice she knows that her daughter is very distressed, so she asks her what's going on. And that's when Juliet's told her mom, she opened up to her mother about Lainey and the breakup, and her mom is there for a little bit until she says she ran into a family friend whose son is coming back for the summer, and she tries to do a matchup. Her mother made a step, but then she kind of fell back to that comfortable zone, and Juliet felt very distraught because she opened up to her mother thinking that she would understand. Well, in reality, her mom was trying to set her up with a guy, and she was saying that it's not going to work. And so we had that awkward moment with her mother as well. We get to Powell's books to do the book reading and the book signing, and during those times, because Juliet was helping Harlow getting ready for this, you know, helping with the merch and everything, as well as with Maxine, who was there as well. We also find out that there's been some tension going on between Harlow and Maxine, because she realizes that her emotions and her feelings are growing more towards Zyra, and Harlow is finding it very difficult to realize that she might be losing Maxine, even though they are in a poly relationship. And we also find out that through Maxine that Harlow had done something in a way as well that kind of hurt her, meaning she had more of a relationship with another partner. And it's very awkward considering that that lady works and I guess in a way set up the whole book thing at Powell's. So things are a little tense with Harlow and her relationships, and we have this moment. Everything's going so well at the book signing, and then we get to the Q&A, and that's when we get a question from Zyra, and it's one of those difficult questions that shows a person's characteristics and how they react. Because this was the question: Harlow, do you think that tacking on a message of unity and solidarity for queer and trans women of color at the end of Raging Flower was powerful enough to make a difference? As if a few sentences could bridge the disparity among women who experience oppression due to their multiple intersectionalities and women who don't have to navigate those intersectionalities? Do you think that this message is enough to rally non-white women to your particular brand of feminism? To your blood sisters? That is a tough question. I will admit I would have to take a moment to collect my thoughts. But this is where we see a side of Harlow that we never saw kind of before. We saw maybe possible hints about it, but this is where we see the full face about it, because Harlow's reaction is by saying how this worked because she talks about Juliet and pulls on all of the stereotypes of being a person of color from a bad background that some people would be considered poor, dangerous, life-threatening situations that made a person at a disadvantage, where she came out alive, and this was thanks to the story that brought us all together. And she pointed out Juliet to the crowd and asked her to stand up. And Juliet was put on the spot, and she felt very targeted, especially when those eyes landed on her, those "oh my god, that's so true, oh this poor person" kind of eyes. And that's where I had to put the book down and take a deep breath, because Harlow actually did that to Juliet. And yes, Juliet was speechless and she ran from the situation because she couldn't think at all and she couldn't breathe. And I was like, oh my god. Oh, if I was already on iffy grounds with Harlow, I thought she was cool at the beginning. I was willing to get along with her, but as we saw more, especially through with the assistance of Maxine, and we started seeing more of Harlow's colors that she probably didn't expect that she had, because she was kind of blind to her own self, and seeing that moment, what kind of person she truly is, I was like, we gotta get out of here. And apparently so did Juliet because she called Ava and she asked her cousin to book her to the next flight to Miami. And at the same time, Kira, who contacted Juliet, went to go pick her up. She took her to her place for kind of a safe space, and they were there just for each other throughout the night. And when the next day happened, we go back to the house. Maxine is there. Harlow kind of retreated to a temple, so she's not facing what she's done to Juliet. And Maxine's understandable. Juliet gets her things and she goes to the airport because Maxine drove her there. And later on we found out that Maxine kind of packed up her things and left Harlow as well. But we're on our way to Miami. And that is where we meet Ava, my favorite cousin, my favorite character. Because she is all loving, out there, out with the wind, flow kind of thing. Also not going to take some crap from people. She is the cousin that Juliet needs. She is that strong shoulder person there to be there to fully support her. And she's also the daughter of the Penny, the one that we were talking about earlier. Ava's also the one that gives Juliet the rundown on the different names and identifications in the LGBTQ plus community, because she was the one that Juliet went to when she had questions, especially with that encounter with Finn. And she was the one that was saying, hey cuz, I'll be the one that basically teaches you all these things, so you know these stuff as well, because again she didn't know many things. And it's through this encounter that, because we were talking to her Thea and we were talking about her past, how she was in love with this girl, but then this girl cheated on her with a guy, and then she met her husband, and we find out through that story that her Thea Penny and Ava they find out that they're bi, so they identify as bi. And through Ava we go to this cool party called the Clipper Queers Party. It's a big major safe space for people of color and in the community, and it's where we see the difference between the Portland community and the Miami community, because in Portland they are very free energy, love giving. Well, this one felt very more family in a way. The other one was a community where they're very open, accepting, giving in a way, and just going with nature and energy and everything. Well, again, this one, it felt very close knit, familiar bonds. Even though you're not blood related, you felt like you were literally, that's how a brother and a sister and a significant other, a partner, another person should feel like. While we're there, we do see the girl that her cousin Ava is crushing on, so we're like trying to push them over. It's like, okay, y'all been avoiding each other this whole time because one wants to be like trying to rack up her nerves to say hi, while the other one's like purposely avoiding because like, your cousin drives me crazy, she is so beautiful, I don't know what I would do without her. And like, okay, y'all get together. And that's where Juliet takes a moment of bravery and she gets her hair cut. She's had this long, beautiful black hair, you know, Juliet right here on the cover, and she decides to get a undercut. In a way, it's like a form of transformation for her, because she feels more relieved, she feels more alive, she feels more like herself in a way. After spending her time in Miami, finding more of herself inside, feeling more comfortable of who she is, Juliet does go back to Portland to finish the internship, and Harlow is there to welcome her back. And she tells her about what happened with Maxine and everything. And she understands what she did is wrong, but she didn't fully give Juliet a proper apology. Instead, she gave up her acupuncture session, thinking that would make things right. And what kind of feels more insult to injury was that she took her to a friend that was a Latina who was also gay and in a relationship with a woman who they're expecting their firstborn. And Juliet felt that this could have been like the first thing Harlow could have done for her to make her feel more welcomed. Instead, she's bringing her for an acupuncture session, and this is where she's talking with Lupe, who is the acupuncturist, and she's talking about, you know, what's been going on to help with the acupuncture. And she's talking about her brother as well, because little Melvin, he is the sweetest young boy in existence, because he has given her a package, Juliet, before leaving, saying open it when it's time. Inside it was 2 bags full of Twix, because he loves Twix, as well as a letter saying, I think I'm 100% pyrokinetic, which is like, awesome boy. And we find out through Lupe, he's like thinking he might be, because, you know, he might have an affinity for fire, just transformation inside yourself, so he's ready to take on the world. And in the letter, he also confides in Juliet, saying that he believes that he is gay as well. So she's there for her little brother, how he was there for her. And Lupe is there giving Juliet a book to help her brother understand more of the pyrokinetic self inside him, the fire that burns. And Juliet does get her, acupuncture therapy moment. It does feel very uplifting. She says she feels light, but she also overhears the confrontation between Maxine, who came over, talking to Harlow, saying, you should really apologize. And Harlow's like saying, she's fine. She says she's fine. She's not really saying that she outright was rude and threw all those stereotypes on Juliet in front of all these people. She's not acknowledging the fact what she did to her. She's like brushing it aside. And here's Juliet listening to it, and she said basically, you don't get to tell me how I feel. You didn't ask me how I feel. And so Harlow makes it about herself and leaves. And it's like, again, we see more about Harlow. We do have one more call with her mother, with Juliet's mother, and this time her mom is there listening, because she did read Harlow's book, trying to get more understanding of what was going on, because Juliet was ghosting her mom, and Thea Penny was saying, hey, you should talk to your mom, because she's trying in a way. She even tried reading that book of yours that you read from Harlow. And so her mom did read Harlow's book to try to get a better understanding of what her daughter was going through. And this time she actually did listen to Juliet, what was going on between Lainey, this internship, how she thought coming here, being with Harlow, would help solve everything, help her solve her problems, get a feel in the world. And her mom was basically saying, Mija, you're the one that makes your world, your life, your decisions. And I know that this is difficult for me, but I will try to figure this out. I will be there for you. So her mom is now trying to take that step, trying to figure out, her daughter's world that she is now a part of, how she wants to try to figure her way in life later on. And she's letting her daughter know that she is there for her, and she is willing to figure things out to better understand her daughter and the community that she's now a part of. To finish off our internship, we spend the remaining days at the library with Kira. We don't know how this relationship will go, because we know it's a summer thing. They know that too. But they spend the days at the library working together, while spending more time at Kira's house and doing things together as not a couple, but what couples will probably do. And on the actual day before departure, we go on a retreat, a cleansing, as you might call it, with Maxine, Zaira, Harlow, Lupe's partner, and we go on a hike to a river, and it's in a way a form that they call it cleansing. And that's where Juliet finally confronts Harlow, because they're hiking, and Juliet's having a difficult time breathing because she forgot her inhaler, and Harlow's not really picking it up. And finally Juliet has a moment where she basically confronts again Harlow, how all the things that you said really hurt me, really affected me. Did you really think that's how I thought? You never really asked me these questions. The reason why I loved you is because I loved you as like an idol, person to look up to. I had you on this pedestal in a way. And Harlow's trying to counteract this, but again, it's from her point of view, how she perceives things that affects her. She's not really acknowledging Juliet's feelings until Juliet continues further on. And that's when Harlow realizes that she really did hurt Juliet. She really didn't fully give out the apology, and now she is sorry, and she really hopes that she can make it up to Juliet. And this is where Juliet realizes that she again was in love with the idea that Harlow was her idol, the person to look up to, and she kind of looks at it that way. But this love that she had for Harlow really doesn't exist. And we make it to the river, and that's when Juliet has her cleansing moments after everyone was in the river. And she realizes that when she panicked, she went underwater, and that was her this whole time, just panicking and the waves taking over her. And she had to let go of this fear to take hold of her life. And in doing so, she came out of the water, and she felt like she was herself. She had control of who she was. She knew that later in life she'll still be growing, finding out more of the person that she is. But at this moment, she knew who Juliet was. And we end off the book with us back at home in the Bronx with the whole family there to welcome her home. And Juliet ends things off by writing a very positive note to her future self to just fully accept who she is. No matter what, you are beautiful. No matter what people say, you accept yourself for who you are, love yourself, and be positive. And that's the end of spoilers. Again, like I said, this book was a little bit different than what I usually read. It was basically seeing a world through new eyes that have always been here around us. Juliet, she basically introduced us to this new world that she knew was there, but she always saw it from the other side, but now she's in it for real. She's trying to find her way. We saw that also through the introductory of Finn, even though he was just throwing these things at her very harsh. She realized that she really didn't know that much. She also saw that, you know, she didn't know that much about history that was basically hidden from her and other people. Basically, you know how things are selected to put into textbooks. And we saw her figuring out where she fit in this new community. Harlow, she did introduce her a little bit, but also felt like very protected, guarded, and in circles that Harlow felt more comfortable with, where she should have actually brought her to Lupe. Miami showed a more familiar bond, especially with Ava, who is more upfront. She's the cousin that loves you, everything, but she knows when she has to be upfront with emotions and everything with the facts. I do not like the relationship at all with Lainey, even though we never met Lainey. How the interaction we did see with her went. We also saw that Lainey thought she made a mistake and wanted to talk to Juliet, maybe get back, but you know, after that moment with Ava, Juliet understood that, you know, things weren't gonna be with them how they thought they were gonna be. Girlfriend, probably maybe significant others in the future, but she was willing to look past that, wishing Lainey the best of luck with her relationship. Hopefully, you know, when we go back to school, we can still be friends. We saw the growth in Juliet as she was finding herself in the way. I really wish we could see more interaction between the side characters, especially Ava. I loved Ava very much. Finn, I felt like he could have been an interesting character to explore more. I did enjoy the moments we got to see with Maxine and Zyra. We also saw how that interaction reflected off of Harlow. Again, Harlow, she is aware of things, but is very protecting her mind on other matters that happened that affected people, especially with Maxine, how she thought Maxine didn't know things, so she was making decisions believing on her behalf that would be good for her, while Maxine saw that very, you know, microaggressive, thinking, you know, she didn't even ask me if I knew about this stuff because this person already talked to me about that, and I said yes. So we saw that relationship. We saw how, in a way, people that we idolize, they're also human. They make faults, but it depends on how you react to that. So I don't know how the relationship with Harlow would go on in the future with Juliet. They might have gone different ways. I don't know. But that would have been on Juliet's journey. And again, this was a very different book, different read, very eye-opening. It listed some names, again, of people that I didn't know about, so I looked up those. Like, that would be really good stuff to research to understand more of the past. And that's also gives this also lets you know to, like, you know, question things. Don't just take things for, you know, answers for what they are. Question the world around you, ask things that don't make sense. Probably ask, you know, if things were different back then, and if they don't line up to what people are telling you, to what you're taught in school. If you want, go ahead, take the initiative and learn things on your own, find out things about history. And it's always good to have intellectual debates with people. It shows that, you know things, you're willing to learn things, and you're not afraid to speak out your mind, speak out your voice, and just lets people know that, you know, you are to be heard and to not be silenced. So this was a good book. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, Julia Takes a Breath by Gabby Rivera. 4 out of 5 stars. My name is Sarah, and bye!